So we are getting down to the wire on the cannabis opt-ins, opt-outs.
Dun dun.
According to our chart, there are 32 days, 14 hours, 42 minutes, and 8 seconds left. We have a chart that is, we are charting what every village and town are planning to do on this. And what we know so far and what's shaping up to be interesting is NIAC, which I really think has gone out of its way to consider and public opinion and to educate itself, is now leaning toward opting in on dispensaries, but perhaps opting out on the consumption lounges. Sloatsburg, the village of Sloatsburg, is making its decision tomorrow. I expect that they will opt out. Piermont is also, like NIAC, leaning in toward opting in on dispensaries and potentially opting out on the lounges. And Haverstraw, the town of Haverstraw, also seems to be leaning in. As far as I know, I don't believe there's a public hearing set there yet. We'll update that this week. And yet, Clarkstown, which is holding a public hearing on December 14th, there seems to be a foregone conclusion that they're going to opt out, according to Supervisor Holman, who this morning said, regardless of what the public says at the public hearing, that they're planning to opt out. This seems to me, from an economic point of view, with all of these towns and villages that are opting out, but particularly in Clarkstown, and I'll explain why in a minute, it seems like an economically short-sighted decision at this point. Yes, there's the whole discussion about we can opt out now and opt in later, which of course is countered with the argument of, but you don't want to discourage entrepreneurs who are gearing up now for these 2023 licenses. But about Clarkstown, what's most notable is we have the shops at Nanuet, which is a virtual ghost town. It's struggling, absolutely struggling to reinvent itself. Not that one dispensary is necessarily the catalyst to jumpstart a mall, but it is going to be an element of retail that will be interesting to people. And then more so even is the Palisades Center also struggling to attract tenants. And why, there's two issues here. One is, why seed all of that potential income to, say, Piermont, Nyack, and potentially the town of Haverstraw, and also the village of Haverstraw, which has opted in? Why should Clarkstown seed all of that potential income? That's really the question on the table. The other issue is the zoning piece of this. So as they have really drilled down in the village of Nyack, and they've looked at this also in the village of Haverstraw, there's a general understanding that, okay, because the state has defined where these facilities cannot be, i.e. very close to churches, schools, residential or mixed-use districts, so in the village of Haverstraw, they're thinking about up on 9W, keeping it on 9W. The discussion in the village of Nyack that went on, I think that was last week or the week before, no, maybe the week before. So they're talking about the commercial corridor on Route 59 up above, on the upper part of Main Street as you're heading out of town. You have a part of Nyack that is so in need of a new to have new life breathed into it. So from a zoning perspective, towns in a sense and villages in a sense, if they just, look at their codes or even amend their codes, they have a way to keep these entities in a place where they don't defy the state rules and where, town leaders don't have to necessarily worry about whatever it is they're particularly worried about. The malls are ideal for this because they are, in a sense, self-contained and not in close proximity to schools, churches, residential, or even mixed-use districts. So we will continue to track this on our cannabis tracker, and track the public hearings, see who else opts in, who opts out. But like we said, there's 32 days left on this, and there is one other thing I'd like to say here, and that is, so even if towns and villages or their leadership decides to opt out, the voters can overturn this decision through a public referendum. They need to gather a number of signatures and put it on the ballot, I guess in November. And there is a mechanism, if residents feel that a bad decision has been made, there is actually, a mechanism to check these actions. So that's kind of the landscape right now as it stands here in the county, and we will wait and see how it plays out.
Do you feel as though there's enough, like, say, in a circumstance, in a situation like Clarkstown, where, obviously we had the supervisor on earlier this morning who was at a definite at this point that he will be, that Clarkstown will be opting out of the sale. Do you think, there are circumstances like that where it is possible that they might get enough support to start a vote to overturn that?
Well, I guess I felt it was a little disturbing to hear him say that despite whatever the public comment is that they're deciding to opt out. It seemed a little definitive. I know that, in other towns and villages that we've been tracking, there's been a strong appetite to hear what the public has to say. Specifically, I have had the Village of Sloatsburg Mayor Peter Akey tell me that he is curious to hear what the public has to say. I know Bruce Tucker in Piermont, the mayor, has put his antenna up to really test what people want. The same, certainly, nobody's doing that better than Nyack. I mean, I have to, kudos to that village for taking such a deep dive and really looking at, really listening to what people have to say. And it's not that it's all in one direction. They've synthesized what they're hearing, but at least the point is that they are taking into consideration what people want. I did not understand that comment this morning. I found it a little surprising. I think that Clarkstown is a big town. There are many sections of Clarkstown. Like in the villages, it's kind of easier to get a handle on. Okay, well, if we want this, well, where might it go? Clarkstown is so sprawling that I can understand where the conversation has to be a little bit bigger. But again, it really comes down to the state regulations and also the town zoning laws. So there are safe places to locate, even if we put the consumption lounges aside for a moment, okay? Because there seems to be some skepticism around those still. But the dispensary, like Clarkstown, for example, as far as I know, I think is the only town that has a medical marijuana dispensary. Maybe Orangetown has one too, come to think of it. But I mean, we already know that these places are run, as a tight ship, and we also know that marijuana is legal.
Mm-hmm. We have one close by my house, actually, in Newburgh, that is busy all the time, from open to close. They've got a line out the door, and that's just a medical dispensary.
That's right. Everybody is citing Great Barrington as the place that has really opened itself up, and I think they're saying there are about 5 locations up there in Great Barrington, which is a beautiful small town, and how this is stimulating, economic activity in the town. It's bringing people in. It brings people to the restaurants and to the attractions, and I think it is smart economically to incorporate this new element as an economic option. And what I was going to talk about originally was, there are three categories of commercial building that seem to be hot, hot, hot. And one is senior housing. We certainly see that in Clarkstown. Two are distribution warehouses, which is kind of the love-hate thing where we hate the traffic, but we love everything delivered to our front doorstep, yesterday. And three, which is the story that I just posted this morning, is there's yet another self-storage facility posted for on 6 acres on a 6-acre piece of land, empty acres in Congress. So there we have a company that's proposing to build 90,000 square feet of self-storage space. Curiously, a stone's throw from a CubeSmart that's like really literally on the next parcel over. So I don't even understand that, but that's the kind of development. These are the kind of commercial development categories that are hot. They're hot not just in Clarkstown; they're hot around the nation, and we're seeing those applications here in the county. That's all good and well, but you want to have a diverse culture of economic commerce, because that's what keeps a town or a village healthy. So that's my my perspective, and I do think that those towns and villages that opt in on the cannabis are going to benefit from the revenue, and that it's going to be a ripple effect on their main streets or even in a shopping center, where it will be something that will attract. So many people are interested in this at different levels, and it will stimulate foot traffic, and that's what every village, town, or even a shopping center wants. We've been talking about Rockland Plaza trying to reinvent itself with all the food elements. Right now that shopping center, if you go there now, you can see it's battle scarred from the whole reset of retail, and it needs an injection of change. The shops at Nanuet is a ghost town. So this is an element, and for some reason it's being handled in a way that it appears is just there's not enough. It seems to me that there's not enough thinking about this through an economic lens, and that it seems to be falling into. I like the quote that we cited from Joe Rand, who was a trustee on the village board in Nyack, and he said prohibition of alcohol didn't work in the 1920s, and prohibition of cannabis is not going to work in the 21st century. Or I'm paraphrasing or rephrasing, but he's right. It's here. It's legal. It's going to be legal in New Jersey and legal in Westchester.
It's legal in several places around the country at this point.
That's right, and certainly in our area.
Yeah, there's a lot of opposition. They've been trying to fight sort of the legalization, if you will, or at least the regular usage of it for decades now, and we're only just now seeing the sort of. Trying to look for the correct word here. I don't know. I suppose the decline of regulation, or at least the prohibition of it, if you will. So we'll definitely have to see how that turns out. My hope is that your theory, shall we say, is correct, and that it does bring new economic prosperity to those towns that have opted in, and those that have opted out will see that and hopefully get back in, if you will, in time to see that prosperity themselves. But Tina Traster from the Rockland County Business Journal, thank you so much, and we will talk to you next week, if not before then.
All right, have a great week.
You as